Hey Gillian, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. Look, I'll make sure everybody's aware. So far with these little chats that I've been doing, sort of off the side of reInvent, I've been meeting a lot of people that I've already met. Some of them, admittedly, only over video conference and stuff, but we've never met. So really
No,
appreciate you taking the plunge and agreeing to do this. Thank you.
no problem. it is really nice to get to talk to new people, and there's so many people I haven't got to connect to that I'm really disappointed that we're not all in person at reInvent. That we could actually meet up and
Yeah.
chat to so many people.
Fingers crossed for next year. But
Yeah,
how's your reinvent going this year? How are you finding it?
I think it is very different in that I'm not away from work
Mm,
and therefore fully focused on what's going on. You're trying to do some work and then catch some talks and um, try to deal with the fact that they're streamed but not on demand yet. Although hopefully today we will get some on demand ones.
yeah, I've been hearing different stories, and I've been hearing sort of the promise was kind of vague. It would be like at the end of the week, and like
Yeah,
nobody knows, is that Friday or is that Sunday or what? I don't know. But
yeah.
yeah, have you managed to catch keynotes and things and sessions? Have you managed to catch any?
So I watched the keynote because I definitely wanted to catch it, and then I've watched a few sessions here and there. My secret tip is that if you have the session up when it starts, if you pause it, it will like stay there, so you don't have to watch it. Just it doesn't go away at the end of that slot, so you can like watch two at once.
Oh,
Well,
nice.
you can watch one if you've got the other one
Yeah.
paused, then you can go back to that first one. So if there's ones you want to catch in the same time slot, or you are in a meeting and you can't quite get to the start of it, you can, as long as you've got it in your browser and pause it, you're good for a while.
Sure,
I don't
sure.
know how long. I haven't
Haven't pushed the limits on that too much.
pushed the limits, no, but
No, it's a good tip though. I certainly have found that I've been sort of unavailable and haven't managed to watch a lot or necessarily anything yet. And that's another reason for having these discussions so that we can help me get across what's going on. So but I one of the reasons why I particularly reached out, so obviously you're a machine learning hero, same as myself. And so we see each other sort of we pass in Slack channels and stuff. But one of the things was that I noticed in particular was some of the articles that you write. And particularly one that caught my eye was in relation to artificial intelligence and the AI services, I guess, being the entry point into machine learning. Like machine learning doesn't have to be crazy hard. You can just start here. And that really chimes with me. And that's something that I like to try and get across as well. The other thing I liked about that article is that it had a picture with Lego in it. And Lego is also my
yeah.
thing as well. So are the AI services something that you use yourself as well, or is it just sort of the entry point you're sort of like trying to suggest to people?
No, so I'm a big fan of serverless, and I know you mentioned with Ant. So I do think those AI services now, I have like rated them all, but some of them are very serverless. They are completely managed, they're pay as you go. So I think very much where we see things commoditized, if it's there and it's available and you can just use it, then just use it and then focus your time on what your differentiator is, what isn't there. Like don't try to like rebuild what's already there. So like the first sort of AI services that in AWS I used was Lex back when it was just in preview. We built an employee digital assistant. It was probably a crazy thing to build with a preview service, but it was really successful. It spun off into its own startup company.
Oh, nice.
Out of Liberty Mutual Insurance. It's called WorkGrid. So, it's done really, really well just from that start with one of the AI services. I do use Textract and Comprehend. Been using Comprehend custom models lately, and that's
Okay.
been interesting. Been able to get some pretty good success with that. So I think so. I have a talk in reInvent where I talk about rapid prototyping,
Yes, I
and we would
wanted
always,
to ask you about this.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so we would always start with like, okay, start with the quickest, simplest way to do something. So if you can hop in and use comprehend out of the box, Does it give you what you want? No. Okay, well, what if you train a custom model? Does that give you what you want? Uh, if that's not working, okay, well, then maybe you go down and build a custom model completely from scratch. But if you need an entity recognizer, or you need some image recognition, does recognition custom labels, does it do the trick? Why would you go and build it yourself
Mm,
if until you've tested something that's not going to take you very long, because you're going to need to label that data anyways,
absolutely.
or your own model? Just spend a couple hours, try it out. And the other thing you can tell by doing those is how solvable is the problem. If I take my data and I put it into one of those services and I get nothing out, it's terrible, then I'm going to say, well, this data is probably not great. If I get reasonable results, then you're like, okay, I think there's something here. We're going to be able to do something with this.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, so using the services to sort of maybe get yourself to a minimum viable product and say, okay, well,
Yeah.
it's got legs. Let's push it a bit further. But yeah, if you, I like that idea that if you put the data into one of these services and really nothing comes out, the idea, certainly for me, the idea that I can pitch my machine learning foo against all of the expertise behind the scenes in AWS, I should probably go and spend my time doing something else.
Yeah.
It's okay. I just realized that I was asking you to pass judgment on my skills, but it's fine.
Well, my skills as well. So
Oh, cool. So in terms of so you have it's a dev chat, isn't it? You have at reInvent this year.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, well, so we'll have to make sure that we put links to that close to where this video is as well. So has that happened already, or is that
Yep. So
it?
that's out there on
Yeah.
in the developer lounge. There, all those dev chats are on demand, so you don't
Right,
have
right.
to.
Oh,
Yeah.
good. Right, I
So
can actually, yeah,
yeah,
yes, that's good. I don't have to wait. Yes, I'm still keen to sort of get my head about what's going on. At the moment, I'm surviving through, Jeff Barr's blog and the news blog feeds and the endless amounts of analysis of which I suppose I can't really complain because we're doing this, and Twitter feeds and all the rest of it,
yeah,
to try and get my head around what's going on. And I do find that, like in various places that I'm in, it's almost like a little bit of a competition to find out the most things. Oh yeah, no, I've heard of that already. Yeah, but what about this? Yeah, I should really. I promised myself when reInvent started that I wasn't going to get FOMO, and I was going to. It's okay if you know about it tomorrow. That's fine. I'm not sure I've got there yet, though. Of the announcements that have happened so far, particularly in that AI space, is there anything which is grabbing your attention?
yeah. I'm really fascinated, and I would love your opinion as well on this. So I was really fascinated by all those industrial AI services that they put out there, and I've been trying to like wrap my mind around them because so I'm a developer. So a new service comes out. What's the first thing you do? Is you go and you're like, right, I'm gonna try out the tutorials, and I'm gonna build a little demo app, and I'm gonna try and really understand it by using it.
Hmm.
Well, I'm probably not going to go out and buy industrial equipment so I
No,
can test.
where is it?
And also,
So it's
but I
basically
am not. I'm not.
Deep Lens has grown up, and has and is now called Panorama, right? That's the yes.
Yeah, and even if yeah, so I was trying to wrap my head around like what are these different services? They sound similar, or do they go with the other services? So I think yeah, a Panorama device costs $4,000. So even if I have my house tricked out with cameras, it's probably not going to be the first thing on my
Yeah,
house.
there is that. There is that. So it was actually Gus, who is one of the machine learning heroes. He lives in Australia, but somewhere else. And I just got this message from him. I was out and about. I just got this message from him saying like something along the lines of, yes, it is quite expensive. I mean, what I pointed out to him though was that I mean, yeah, for him and me, and I'm judging from you as well, it's not the kind of thing that we're just going to buy and put in our house for our security cameras, even though we'd probably like to. But that kind of cost is not going to be a problem for industrial units who want to have a device that they can plug cameras in or connect cameras over the network to, and they don't have to patch it, and it's just going to plug into the ecosystem, the AWS ecosystem.
Yeah.
So it'll find a place. Absolutely, I'm
But
sure it
yeah,
will.
for the target market, it's definitely not a big cost.
Yeah,
But for a developer who wants to just give it a go, it's definitely a little prohibitive. It's
yeah,
not something you're gonna go and just like do some demos with.
sure.
But yeah, the Panorama is interesting. So that's for hooking into your cameras. Um, Monitron. I don't know who's
Yes,
naming these.
I have to say that has to be the candidate at the moment for the best name this reInvent.
So that's your sensor systems.
Mm,
If you don't have any sensors, they'll sell you the sensors and the full like end to end. You stick the sensors on and the gateway, and you get a mobile app that you can, use. You don't have to do anything. Then look out for equipment, which I don't think I'll ever be
yes.
able to say the words look out for equipment without imagining a piano falling.
I love it. Yes.
Which is then it's kind of it feels like then it's obviously what's being used under the covers in Monitron, but you
Right.
hook
Yeah.
your own sensors into it.
Yes.
And then look out for vision. Appears to be custom labels.
Yeah.
Um,
I want to dig into that a bit more. Although it's
yeah,
yeah, I'm actually yeah. Is that a similar kind of thing? It's looking for. I'm clicking now through the documentation. Actually, no, just the blog thing. Look out for vision. Simplifies defect detection for manufacturing. So yes, what you just said, custom labels, but maybe
yeah. So
specifically about that workload somehow.
well, so the only I dug into it. So it looks very similar in that you put your photos in and you label them. This is normal. This is an anomaly. Anomaly detection is definitely a big theme in
Yes.
that keynote machine learning. So I was like, this just looks like custom labels, and then I thought, oh well, maybe it's anomaly detection. So you just put in a whole pile of good images, and then if it's outside of those, it finds it. But then no, you have to put in anomalous ones as well. But potentially it is that layer on top of actually being able to detect anomalies better, even with only
Yeah.
a small subset, as opposed to just identifying one thing versus the other.
Right. So maybe
Maybe.
maybe like custom labels, but acknowledging that you're going to have a heavily weighted data set, so you're not going to have many anomalies. Maybe. Yeah. I'd be
Maybe.
interested. I hadn't heard of that one before, so we'll have to knock on the few doors there and see if we can get a bit more insight as to what that feeling was. I do think so. Just going back to Panorama and to Monitron, I am quite interested in the fact that is, as far as I can remember, that's a different model now for selling services, where we've actually got physical devices with AWS logos on it, which are being delivered to places. So, so you mentioned before with those Monitron sensors, therefore detecting, I think, vibrations and temperatures and those types of things. And you slap it on a machine and it can monitor it. I like the idea of this sort of completely out of band, like it's not belonging to the manufacturer of the machine, who may sort of give you what they want to know. But yeah, I like that, and I like that. Then you're getting this end to end, because I mean, Greengrass has been there and IoT and all that kind of stuff, but you still got to find the devices. And if it's fine to like get a Raspberry Pi and throw some code on there, and we've all done that and we'll all continue to do that. But when you're doing it at an industrial scale with something that actually needs to work for a long time, that's not going to cut it. So I think this is an interesting approach, and I wonder whether there's going to be more of this sort of packaging up of
Yeah.
sensors and things.
It's definitely a trend towards packaging things up, putting abstraction on top of things. If you even look at like personalize and forecast, were just abstractions on top of SageMaker,
Mm,
and then they keep, and it was just, I guess, the natural transition to keep packaging it up into those physical devices. And I suppose Amazon has a lot of experience in physical devices as well.
sure,
So I
sure.
guess it was a natural crossover too, because I imagine big manufacturing companies probably don't have hosts of software developers sitting about who can, rig them together, a whole system. AWS definitely was and still is like it is those Lego pieces. It's lots and lots of little pieces you put together. And if you look at any architecture diagram, there's 1,000 things on it. And at the moment you look at it and you're like, did I make it over complicated? And then you're like, no, that's how they've built it, is in lots of little pieces so that you can have lots of control. But more and more you're seeing that they're packaging it up and saying, okay, actually, this is a pattern that everybody's building. So,
Mm,
or this is something that customers are asking for because they don't want to build it themselves. So
sure.
let's package it up and give it to them.
Or and in those cases as a complete solution, and in other cases as most of a solution. Yeah, absolutely. It's
Yeah.
interesting what you were saying before, and we were highlighting there between the lookout, the vision, whatever that was. I'm not very good with names. Um,
Yeah.
was it? Yeah. Oh, what is that? Look out for vision, and its sort of overlap with custom labels. I was talking to Mark Nanakoven a bit earlier, and he was also highlighting this almost like a Venn diagram of services inside of AWS, and it's trying to, but services do overlap, and sometimes I suppose that our skill is to try and find the right one to match to the particular use case we have, and it might not necessarily be that straightforward. But it's always been like that, right? With AWS, it's always been that, yeah, Venn diagram of different product teams who don't necessarily talk to each other, but that's no bad thing. I'm not criticizing them for that.
Yeah. It is hard to know sometimes whenever the things come out. Is it a collaboration, or did this independently evolve?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, we will have to yeah, we'll have to get some more answers on those particular things. And so these all came out in Andy Jasse's keynote presentation. A whole ton of stuff, right? And machine learning is sort of alluded to and hinted at for places outside of machine learning, of course. And they got the hardware that they talked about as well. What what is there left to talk about? What
so, so what do we have a whole machine learning keynote for? Is that what you're
exactly?
wondering?
I mean,
I'm
like,
wondering that.
obviously a portion of it, Swami will come out and say how awesome AWS machine learning is and how many more workloads, and the fact that TensorFlow is on AWS more than anything else, and all that stuff. That it's all good to hear that, but he's going to have to announce something. Just trying to figure out what it's going to be. Is it going to be more of the same kind of things, or is it going to be something bigger? SageMaker Studios sort of keeps getting bigger and bigger. I don't know if is there any sort of big ticket item that we're missing at this point for you anyway?
So I was trying to wrap my head around what they're going to announce in the machine learning keynote. I imagine they'll probably have some customer stories
Hmm.
about some of those specific new things. As part of that, have a bit more time to maybe talk a little bit more about some of them. But yeah, even the fact that they were announcing those new SageMaker things and the ML ops pipeline and stuff, which is, that's a big deal. But to just kind of throw it in amongst everything else when you have a specific keynote for it, you're like, okay. I think we're all expecting something massive, but I don't want to get too excited.
Yeah, sure.
Um, I don't know if I would like to see, like, you'd like to see all of the services keep improving and new features in each of the services. Is there any big services that we're missing? I don't know.
No,
Um,
no. One thing that I was looking for coming into reInvent, and it has kind of been addressed. I've talked about this before, but it's the idea that I can have a data set that's a real world data set. So in other words, it's kind of crappy. And I could pass it into a service that's going to make it good. And I know
yeah,
that's being really kind of highfalutin pie in the sky kind of stuff, but it's a popular topic inside of machine learning circles generally, not just AWS. Now we've seen Data Brew and we've seen Data Wrangler. Could they go one step further? I mean, we've kind of seen it already with AutoML, right? But
yeah.
can we see them take what they do there and go even further? Would that be useful? Is it just me that doesn't want to spend all my time doing that?
I know Google has a service that does something very similar. Is it Google Tables? Is that the one where you pass it your data and it like tries a lot of different variations
Right. Yes.
of that data to try and clean it up? Is it better if you bucket it? Is it better if you do one hot encoding?
Mm.
Um, so Yeah, it would be interesting to see something similar because a lot of time is spent on that data
Yes.
preparation and yeah, um,
Yeah,
the
now that we have and obviously it's not necessarily specifically an AWS thing, but we've got hyperparameter optimization and automated parameter optimization. You know, you press a button, it just does everything that you were going to do, but you can go off and
yeah,
have a cup of tea while it spends quite a lot of money on your behalf. So it's basically the same thing, right? Right, trying different things
yeah.
with data. It's a formulaic thing, and machine learning engineers applying machine learning to machine learning problems, it's their natural thing to do, right? So yeah, I'm wondering if we could see something there.
I think for data cleanup and all, yeah, the auto ML where it's like, yeah, click this button and try every possible combination so I don't have to manually do that. It's great. I do think we do need to be careful that we don't get to the point where you never look at your data,
Mm.
because that can be dangerous. I know that like spending a little bit of time actually looking at the data and going, does this data make sense? Is this the right data? Is there things in here that are bizarre to me as a human? Why do you know?
Sure.
But maybe it can probably start to highlight some of those things. It could definitely probably get some like these are huge outliers or there's all this data missing and things like that. But getting to grips with it can just be a little slow and tedious. I know my team at the moment, we have a lot of new team members who we keep threatening them with data labeling jobs. But, uh, so
Wow.
we're dealing with taking in a lot of unstructured data, so emails and all their attachments and emails are very different than forms, and forms are different than a Word document that's a narrative document and things like that. But I had people label a bunch of emails, but until you sat and read all those emails and really got to grips with, okay, how are people describing things? What sort of information are they putting in the email versus in the forms? Does it even match and things like that? So until you've actually taken some time and read a whole bunch of them, you don't really understand what the data is or what you're trying to do or why it's easy or hard. But once people do that, then they go, they come back and tell me as a human they couldn't understand how
I
to
tell you,
take
as
some
a
of the data
human,
out.
please don't let me ever have to do that again. And I get it.
Yeah, yeah. So I think
Yeah,
spending a
domain
little bit of time
expertise.
making, yeah,
Yeah,
domain expertise is the key thing.
yeah,
Is this the right data? What data do we have? Um, and then
yeah.
what's going to fit it? But that just manual cleanup of data and things like that. There's no reason why we shouldn't have tools for that.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So this is really helping me sort of understand my own wish, I suppose. So it is about empowering someone with domain expertise to not have to spend necessarily so long once they've got it, well, they've got the problem space. They can just say, right, this is it. Go fix that. Go
Yeah,
do that. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes some sense. I'm getting there. Okay. So you mentioned there about forms and stuff. Have you used Textract? And if you saw Textract and its handwriting recognition and stuff recently?
Yeah, so we have been using Textract. We have a lot of different forms. We're hoping there'll be, I guess, maybe there'll be some announcements with Textract and it'll do all sorts of magical things. I think there's a lot of discussion in-house because Textract does some things really well, but then some things not great. It's interesting,
Mm.
handwriting is something that people are like, well, we can't use Textract because it doesn't do handwriting. Um, and now you go, well, no, I just released that. So
Yeah.
you've written it down, but it's not correct anymore. Um, we haven't run it in production for handwriting, but the tests we've done, it seems really solid. It seems to work really well.
Yeah. Cool.
We're getting different. Some forms work really well in Textract, some don't. There's 1,000 OCR vendors out there. It's very interesting. And they were answering, like our business is saying, well, why are you even looking at Textract versus, we could sign a contract with these people or these people. And you're like, well, we're not signing a contract with AWS. We pay per page. If I send them 5 pages and then never send them another one again, I don't pay anything. I haven't paid them a huge, upfront contract fee or, got tied into anything. which I think is a big shift. You know, if you work in large enterprises, to try and explain to people, well, you know, I know previously we if you wanted to use a service, you had to, you know, engage with that people and do all these things. Whereas now it's like, well, I can try it, and if it's we can put it in our app, and if it's not working out, then you know we just use something different. It's not a
Sure.
big deal to try it anymore. So I think that's also great. Is that if I turn Textract on, it's working really well. Great. It's not, we can turn it off. 2 months from now, they come out with a new feature. I can just turn it back on again.
Yeah. Yeah. And that sort of takes us right back to that concept that we were talking about before of yeah, just try it and see if it works. It takes me back to right back to my journey in AWS actually. And I was talking to one of the AWS solution architects. What server do we use for this problem? And they just looked at me and said, I don't know, just try them all and figure it out. Because like why not? It's easy. And it's the right kind of philosophy in cloud. Well, I'm hoping that you know the enterprise where you are obviously clearly has embraced AWS and cloud. So it's probably a winnable argument that you're making there. You're not having to completely re-educate them. So cool. All right. Well, hey, thank you so much for taking some time out from what your busy day, no doubt, and from your reInvent track. I'm asking people when we're doing this, where are we? So we're not actually in a hallway in reInvent. We're not actually in Vegas. We could be anywhere. We're in a virtual environment here. We could be anywhere. If you've got somewhere you want to nominate that we could be, it could be anywhere in the world, fiction or real. So far, if you need pointers, I think Ant said that we were in, where were we? We were in Carnaby Street, because that's where we happened to have met once. Mark Coven, who I spoke to recently, we decided we were in space in a geospatial, geostationary orbit above Vegas, looking down on it, socially distancing. Have you got anywhere you'd like to be, or have you, or I'll just
Here's
throw
one
this
I
at
know.
you?
Here's one I want to know, Mike. Where do you get a good cup of tea in Las Vegas?
Oh,
Is
right.
is there anywhere?
There is, now this is going to sound like a real dodgy answer, but there is, and it's whichever hotel room I'm staying in. I carry my kettle with me. I have a kettle which is specifically for the 110 voltage that I carry, and I bring tea bags with me. And I'm sorry to any American audience members, but yeah, just haven't made it quite yet. Not in that space. So
You know, for last Christmas, I got a little tiny travel kettle because I was thinking, you know, there's nothing in the hotel rooms in Vegas. I need my cup of tea.
yes.
Haven't traveled anywhere this year, so
No, haven't needed to. I have to say, there's no kettle in any hotel anywhere in America, North America, as far as I've seen so far. I'm willing to try more, and we'll see how we go. But yes, tea needs to be brought with us. All right, so we'll be in a tea plantation somewhere, somewhere nice and not too hot, not like it is here right now. But yeah, all right.
it snowed today.
Oh man, I'm so jealous. Right here now is what it was. It's something like 34 degrees today, and that's not quite the bad thing. The bad thing is the humidity. It's just brutal. But yeah, hopefully it'll cool down a little bit. Cool. Look, thank you so much.
Oh,
I'd
perfect.
love to catch up again and maybe get some more thoughts from you at some point in time. If you're happy
Yeah,
to do that, let's do that.
no,
And
that's cool.
Gillian, enjoy the rest of reInvent. Thank you very much.
Yes. Have a great day.
Thanks.